Good morning, everybody. This is episode 8 of the Happyology podcast with me, Dr. Charlotte McFarlane. And this episode is The Words We Say. This episode was inspired, I guess, a little bit because I had an interesting conversation on the weekend. And it was just one of those conversations where, I think we were both saying the same thing, but we were trying to say it differently. And it really stuck with me because, we had these two people, someone who does something similar to what I do. And, I'm talking over here and he's talking over here. And it's just like there's this big wall in between us. And, I'll tell you the specifics. I like the word help. How can I help you? As opposed to, very, very popular, the word serve. How can I serve? How can I serve? Whereas for me, it's, I just the way that I feel the words. I don't like that word so much. And he says, no, you have to serve. Helping means that, helping means that you believe that you're better than them. He said, so when you say help, it means that you're better than someone else and they need your help. They are sort of subservient to you. Whereas me, I don't like the word serve because I feel subservient to other people. And it makes me, I've had a lot of burnout issues, and that just kind of sucks me out when I feel like I'm serving, but I like helping people. And I don't help people because I think that I'm better than them, but I help them because we all have, things that we're good at and things that we're not good at. And I get to help people in some ways and they get to help me in other ways. And for me, I sort of think of helping as this kind of nice, feeding into each other loop of helping everybody. Whereas serving is kind of serving the whole group together. And so he's trying to say to me, he said, you need to use the word serve. Serve is the word that you have to use. And then he said, when I work with people, I have to lift them up. And I think, and then I said, well, why do you use the word lift them up? Because to me, that's very, I use the word allow, and I use the word hold space. Because when we're doing any type of healing, it's never the healer that's actually doing the work. It's the healer that's facilitating the healing to happen with the individual that is being healed. And, that's something that, maybe that's a whole other discussion topic, is to unpack, the healer versus the, the practitioner or, whatever you want to say there. And we just sort of ended up in this sort of gridlock where, like I said, he's talking over on one side and he's saying, you have to serve, you have to lift them up. And I'm over here on the other side of the wall saying, you have to help, you have to allow and hold space. You have to help. You can't do it for them. You can't serve them by doing something for them. Or he's saying you have to serve because if if you're helping, it means that you're better than they are. Whereas if you're serving, it means that we're all equal. And we just, like I said, we just had this big old wall between us. And it really made me think hard about the words that we use. And words are a really big part of my life. I have always loved words. I am a writer, so I write fiction in my quote spare time, and I just love the way that words go together, and I love the way that they sound. I love the way that if you construct a really good sentence, the way that it can just pull emotion out of you, just the words alone, that can bring so much feeling. If I say the word shout, if I say the word explosion, if I say the word shoot, my guess is you're sitting there and that's driving an emotional reaction with you. They're just words. I mean, they're just combinations of letters, but they have so much meaning associated with them. And the way that you use something like the word shoot, we can think of that in so many different ways. And so maybe when I say shoot, you think about like a school shooting, terrible tragedy. Maybe you think about like a police officer shooting a criminal who is causing danger to others, and by shooting we're relieving and saving people from a really bad situation. Maybe you think I just mean oops. Oh shoot. Oops. So one word, 5 letters, and so many different meanings. Or maybe shooting is like hunting or at a shooting range, and you do that for fun. Very, very different meanings, but all one word. And everybody came out, I'm guessing here, but everyone listening had their own individual reaction to that word. You might have thought about a school shooting, but maybe somebody thought that I was saying, oops, oh shoot. And the meaning of words, is just so individual. So the same as, this fella and I were having this big wall between us because we couldn't decide on which words to use. Eventually I just said, look, man, like, we're talking about the exact same thing. We're just using different words, and that's okay. That we all have, we all just want to express things differently. And so on the one hand, words and words themselves, because they're vibrational, they do carry some meaning. And if you follow some of my coaching and clearing videos, you'll see that I'm always trying to find the right word to hit the right vibration. So this, to me, this is when the word itself has the most power, is when we're actually using the vibrational power of it. But all of the other times, words have the power that we give them. And I want to say that one more time. Words have the power that we give them. And I think it's really interesting when I do some of the clearing work and we're talking about vibrational stuff. Sometimes I have to use words in English, or if I've got somebody who speaks a different language. So I've got, some of my family is French, so sometimes we need a French word. I've got a client who's Japanese, and sometimes we need a Japanese word. And the word doesn't mean anything to me, but it means something to them. And that's how we're able to pull the power out of it. I think it is important to realize that words do have power, but more importantly than the word itself, more importantly than the 5 letters SHOOT, is the intention that we give them. And so, whether this friend, wants to use the word serve and I want to use the word help, whether he wants to say lift up and I want to say hold space, we're talking about the same core phenomenon. And some people, I think, would call this the language of the soul, which, we don't speak, we get to translate. So everything is always translated. They say numbers are the universal language. And of course they are, because, 1 always means 1, 2 always means 2, 3 always means 3. We think so far. Who knows? When we discover some more dimensions, maybe that will probably change. But numbers are kind of the vibration. So I think when we say a word, really what we're doing is we're taking, the soul's language, or the inner core, the inner vibration. We're taking this vibrational energy, which is, we can think of that as numbers, because if you talk about vibration, it's got wavelength and frequency, which is all numbers. So we take this vibrational language and we try to condense it into something physical. We try to condense it into words. And whether we write them, or whether we speak them, or whether we just think them in more of a concrete term, there's all of these translations that have to happen between, kind of the core idea, whether you want to use thought, whether you want to go a bit deeper and say, universal knowledge, universal truth, down into our thoughts, down into, the physical words that we say. And then, of course, it gets translated back out from, I hear somebody say something, or I read something that someone's written, and I have to bring that into my consciousness, or bring that into my thoughts, back into my kind of vibrational field. And then that hits back into my soul, or into the core, where I decide if things feel right or things feel wrong. And so I always say it's like a bad game of telephone. That game where you'd sit in a circle and someone would whisper something to the next, to the person beside them, and they'd whisper it around, and it would come back, and it would be something totally different and completely ridiculous. And that's sometimes the game that we're playing with ourselves and with others. When we say words, is we've got all of these translations that are happening. And, in this conversation that I had the other day, with this wall between the two of us, I could tell that, he was determined, like he was right. He knew exactly, he was so convinced that, the word serve was the word that you had to use. It was, you had to use it. You couldn't use the word help. And, you had to use lift up was the words that you had to use. And for me, with all the translations that happened back in my, in my core, in my seat of the soul, I just sort of said, that's not, that doesn't feel comfortable with me. And as I'm saying this, you might be, on the other end of this podcast and going, Charlotte, like, this doesn't feel comfortable with me. I don't know why you think that you need to help people. You need to serve. Maybe for you, those are the right words, but, both of us are healers. Both of us are good healers. Both of us have, you hate to use it as a measure, but clients that are very satisfied and pleased and have changed lives. And so both of us are, if you want to say like the real deal, both of us, work in this space and we work well, I think. And so we've got the same, again, if you want to use the word universal truth, the same universal truth that we're acting from. But for me, it's translated one way, and for him, it's translated the other. And a lot of that is going to be based on, personal experiences and, traumas and old layers. And, like I said, I mean, for me, I don't like the word serve because of my issues with burnout, where I was, constantly trying to fulfill everybody's, desires of me, what everybody, said that they needed from me. I was, bending over backwards and just exhausting myself trying to fill all of these needs and trying to be the best that I could for all of these other people. And so for me, that's what serve brings up. Whereas I can completely appreciate, for some people, help is not maybe a nice word either. Maybe you feel like, you were, what's the right word? Your own gifts and talents were suppressed because somebody always, you were never able to develop because somebody was always there helping you. Somebody always, was there because they thought that you couldn't do it on your own. And so maybe help is a really kind of negative word. You don't want to be helped. I mean, heck, most of us are so bad at receiving help. But, and certainly on my journey, I would say I've flip-flopped a little bit, but there isn't a perfect word. Love is probably the right word, but nobody says, oh, I like to love people, which I do, but it's a weird, it's a weird thing to say, right? So, as we go out there, I mean, really, I just wanted to talk about this because, this fella and I, we were having a conversation and it could have gotten really, really drawn out. But, I had to sort of step back into my seat of the soul, or my throne, and say, all right, where is this guy coming from? And, like he's not a bad guy. So, what are we, what's happening here? And I just saw very clearly that the wall was just an interpretation. It was just, the way that we had translated things, from our souls down to our minds, down to our, physical reality. The way that we translated them was different. And so as each of you goes out there, I want you to think about that and to really just keep that in mind, when you've got somebody that you're dealing with, whether it's at work or, at home, family, whether it's, just out walking down the street and someone says something that really kind of just, gut instinct hits you in the wrong way. Check in. It's okay to say, oh, can we clarify what you mean? I felt, when you said you wanted me to serve, or when you said you wanted to serve me, I had a gut reaction that said, no, I don't want to enter into a servant type, relationship, like, I had a gut reaction. So maybe we can check in and we can talk about what we each mean. And I think, when we do that, all of a sudden, we're tearing down these walls. We're blowing them out, and we're starting to engage a little bit more in love and connect better. Just because we maybe want to use a different word, it doesn't mean that we're not all speaking the same truth. We're just speaking a different language. So that is the words that we say. And words are important, but I think that the intention behind them is really what counts. And I hope that that is insightful for everybody today. Thanks again for joining me. Don't forget to check us out on the Facebook page and at happyology.com. And I will see you tomorrow. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.